Successful surgeon stops her car and tells homeless veteran, "You're my father." When the DNA results came back, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. For as long as she could remember, Dr. Sarah Mitchell knew two things. She had been adopted, and somewhere out there was a man who had given her life, then disappeared. Now at 34, Sarah was one of the most respected cardiac surgeons on the West Coast, head of surgery at Seattle's premier medical center, owner of a penthouse apartment, luxury cars, and investment properties worth millions. On the outside, her life looked perfect, but inside, a void remained, a hole that even prestigious awards and seven-figure salaries couldn't fill. For years, her adoptive parents, especially her mother, had kept the truth locked away. "He abandoned you because he didn't want the responsibility," they used to say coldly. "Forget the past. We gave you everything you needed." But Sarah could never forget. In quiet moments between surgeries, she would stare at her reflection in the operating room mirrors, wondering, who do I really look like? Whose determination runs through my veins? When her adoptive mother passed away from cancer, Sarah, now executor of the family estate, discovered something hidden in the old woman's bedroom closet. A sealed manila envelope, yellowed with age and tucked behind photo albums. Inside, documents, signatures, and a faded photograph. In the photo, a young white man in military dress uniform, tall and proud, holding a newborn baby girl in his arms, a genuine smile lighting up his face. In careful handwriting below, Marcus Mitchell, 1990, birth father of Sarah Mitchell, legal adoption record. Staring at the photo, Sarah felt her breath catch. His jawline, it looked exactly like hers. His determined eyes, she saw them every morning in the mirror. There was also a letter, a cold legal statement. Due to tragic circumstances and severe psychological trauma, the biological father has consented to full legal adoption. No future claims permitted. Documents sealed. Reason: combat-related PTSD following Desert Storm deployment. Single father unable to provide stable care due to mental health crisis and homelessness risk. The words hit Sarah like a scalpel to the heart. He hadn't abandoned her because he didn't love her. He had been broken, traumatized, helpless, and she had been taken from him when he needed help the most, not judgment. For weeks, Sarah couldn't focus on her surgeries. Her heart burned with one thought: I have to find him. She hired the best private investigators, searched military records, veteran databases, hospital admissions. Nothing. No death certificate, no current address, no trace. He was gone. Or so they thought. Then, one foggy Seattle morning, fate intervened. Sarah had just finished a complex heart surgery, saving the life of a 7-year-old boy. Exhausted but exhilarated, she was driving her silver Tesla through the old industrial district, taking a shortcut to avoid downtown traffic. Her mind drifted again to the photo in her purse. His face, his eyes. "Where are you, Dad? Are you even alive?" As she approached a red light near the Pike Place market area, traffic slowed. Sarah glanced at the sidewalk, and then she saw him. An elderly white man, thin and weathered, hunched beneath the weight of a torn military jacket. His beard was long and gray. His boots had holes, and he held a cardboard sign that read, "Veteran. Anything helps. God bless." He moved slowly, his head down, invisible to the world rushing past. But Sarah's heart jolted violently. His jawline, even beneath the beard, it was identical to hers. His posture, the way he held his shoulders, she recognized it from her own reflection. Adrenaline surged through her veins. Without thinking, she yanked the steering wheel right, pulling into a loading zone. Her hazard lights flashed as she threw open the door and stepped onto the wet pavement. The old man looked up in surprise as the young woman in scrubs and a white lab coat approached him quickly. For a moment, neither spoke. Sarah's chest heaved, her hands trembled. Then, in a voice thick with emotion, she whispered, You're my father." The old man blinked in confusion. His weathered face showed decades of pain. His hands shook slightly, classic signs of trauma that Sarah recognized from her medical training. He looked at the young woman standing before him, dressed in clean hospital scrubs, eyes wide with emotion and certainty. What did you say? He stammered, his voice hoarse. Sarah's voice broke. You're my father. I know it. Please, please tell me your name. Tears welled in the man's tired eyes. Marcus, he whispered. Marcus Mitchell. Sarah's knees went weak. It was the same name from the adoption file. She quickly pulled the folded photograph from her lab coat pocket, the old picture of him as a young soldier holding a newborn baby. She held it out with trembling hands. Look. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. His eyes locked on the faded image. His weathered hands flew to his mouth, and a sob escaped his lips. Oh God, no. It can't be. Sarah's voice was urgent now. Please. I've searched for you. I know what happened. I found the papers. The truth about your service, about what the war did to you, about what they did to us. Tears streamed down Marcus's cheeks. He sank to his knees on the sidewalk, sobbing uncontrollably. Sarah knelt beside him, not caring about her expensive scrubs getting dirty on the wet concrete. You didn't abandon me, she whispered. You were sick. You needed help, and instead of giving it to you, they took me away. Marcus's frail hands reached up toward her face, disbelief in his eyes. They told me I would never see you again, he wept. After I came back from the war, I couldn't sleep, couldn't work, couldn't think straight. The nightmares, the flashbacks. I was living in my car. I had nothing. I couldn't take care of myself, let alone a baby. His voice broke. They said it was temporary, just until I got better. They made me sign papers. They said it was the only way to keep you safe, to give you a real home with people who could provide for you properly. Sarah pulled him into a tight embrace. You don't have to explain, she whispered. You're my father. You always will be. For long minutes, the two clung to each other, lost in the moment. Years of pain, grief, and longing poured out in tears. Passers-by stopped and stared, the sight of a successful doctor embracing a homeless veteran in the street. But Sarah didn't care. Finally, through tear-filled eyes, she looked at him. Come with me, she said softly. Please, let me take care of you now. Marcus shook his head weakly. Look at me. I'm nothing. I have nothing. You're a doctor, a successful woman. You don't need a broken-down old soldier dragging you down. Sarah smiled gently, the same determined smile from his old military photo. You are everything I've needed. I have all the success in the world, but I've never had my father. Slowly, with shaking legs, Marcus allowed her to help him into the Tesla. For the first time in decades, he sat on soft leather seats, tears still falling down his weathered face. Sarah called her assistant, cancel my afternoon appointments, get Dr. Williams to cover my emergency calls, and contact the best psychiatrist specializing in veteran PTSD. I need them available immediately. In the weeks that followed, Marcus was given comprehensive medical treatment, new clothes, good food, and most importantly, professional therapy for his long untreated PTSD. His strength returned little by little, both physical and mental. And every night, Sarah would sit with him in the guest room of her penthouse, listening to his stories of the past, of his love for her mother who had died in childbirth, of the horrific experiences in Desert Storm that had shattered his mind, of the terrible choice he was forced to make, and of the decades spent wondering what had become of his daughter. I used to walk past hospitals, Marcus told her one evening as they sat looking out at the Seattle skyline. I'd wonder if you might be inside, saving lives. I always imagined you'd be something special, something important. Sarah reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. I became a doctor because of you, she said softly. Even without knowing you, I wanted to heal people. I think that came from your heart." One quiet evening, as they sat by her fireplace, Marcus looked at his daughter, now strong, successful, and kind. "I thought I had lost you forever," he whispered. "I never thought you would want anything to do with a broken-down veteran who couldn't even take care of himself when you needed him most." Sarah reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "There's nothing broken about you that can't be healed," she said softly. "You gave me life, and you gave me the strength to save other people's lives. Now I can finally give you the life you deserve." 3 months later, Sarah stood beside Marcus at the Veterans Memorial Service for his unit. He was clean-shaven now, wearing a new suit, his PTSD managed with proper medication and therapy. As they placed flowers at the memorial wall, Marcus turned to his daughter. "You saved my life," he said simply. Sarah smiled, tears in her eyes. "No, Dad. We saved each other." The following year, Sarah established the Marcus Mitchell Foundation, providing comprehensive support for homeless veterans with PTSD and connecting them with family members they'd lost touch with due to their service-related trauma. Marcus became the foundation's first success story and eventually its spokesperson, sharing his story to help other veterans find hope. At the foundation's first annual gala, as Sarah watched her father confidently address a room full of donors and fellow veterans, she thought about that foggy morning when she pulled over to talk to a stranger with a cardboard sign. Sometimes the people we're looking for are right in front of us, invisible only because society has taught us not to see them. Marcus concluded his speech that night with words that brought the entire room to tears. "My daughter didn't just find me on that street. She taught me that no matter how broken we think we are, no matter how far we've fallen, family never gives up on family. And sometimes, the very person you think you've lost forever is the one who's been looking for you all along." And so the man once broken by war, the man once reduced to begging on the streets, now lived with dignity and purpose, working alongside the daughter who had never stopped loving him, even when she didn't know his name. As they drove home that night, Marcus looked at Sarah and said, "You know, I keep that old cardboard sign in my office at the foundation." "Why?" Sarah asked. Marcus smiled. "To remind me that sometimes the worst day of your life is actually the day everything starts to get better. That was the day my daughter found me." The foundation grew rapidly, helping hundreds of veterans reconnect with their families and rebuild their lives. Sarah often worked late into the night, reviewing applications and funding requests, but she was never alone. Marcus would sit in the office with her, reviewing cases and sharing insights that only someone who'd lived through homelessness and PTSD could provide. One evening, as they worked together on a particularly difficult case, a female veteran with 3 children living in her car, Marcus paused and looked at his daughter. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't driven down that street that day?" he asked. Sarah considered the question carefully. "I think we would have found each other eventually," she said. "Some connections are too strong to stay broken forever." "But what if I hadn't made it that long?" Sarah reached across the desk and took his hand. "Then I would have spent my whole life looking for you, and I would have honored your memory by helping others the way I wish I could have helped you." Marcus squeezed her hand. "You know what the strangest part is? All those years on the street, I used to have this recurring dream. I dream about a young woman in a white coat who would stop and see me, really see me, not just look past me like everyone else did. I used to wake up and think it was just wishful thinking." "Maybe it wasn't a dream," Sarah said softly. "Maybe it was a promise." 2 years after their reunion, Sarah and Marcus stood together at Sarah's medical school graduation, not her first one, but a special ceremony where she was receiving an honorary doctorate for her work with veteran healthcare. As she walked across the stage, Marcus stood and applauded louder than anyone else in the audience. Later, at the reception, colleagues approached Marcus to compliment him on his daughter's achievements. "You must be so proud," one of Sarah's fellow doctors said. "She's remarkable, brilliant surgeon, humanitarian, leader in veteran advocacy. You raised an incredible woman." Marcus smiled, looking across the room at Sarah as she spoke with other honorees. "Actually," he said, "she raised me." The doctor looked confused, so Marcus continued. I was homeless when she found me. Broken, hopeless, invisible. She didn't just give me a home. She gave me back my purpose, my dignity, my reason to keep living. People think parents shape their children, but sometimes children save their parents. That night, as they drove home from the ceremony, Sarah asked her father about his dreams for the future. I want to see the foundation expand to every major city, Marcus said. I want every homeless veteran to know that someone is looking for them, that they matter, that they're not forgotten. We'll make that happen, Sarah promised. And I want to walk you down the aisle someday, Marcus added quietly. Sarah laughed. I'm married to my work, Dad. You know that. Work won't keep you warm at night when you're old, Marcus said with a smile. Trust me, I learned that the hard way. 6 months later, Sarah met Dr. James Rivera, a psychiatrist specializing in trauma therapy who had been volunteering with their foundation. Their shared passion for helping veterans created an immediate connection, and Marcus watched with quiet satisfaction as his daughter finally allowed someone else into her carefully guarded heart. The day James asked Marcus for permission to propose to Sarah, the old veteran looked at the young psychiatrist seriously. You understand what you're getting into? Marcus asked. She's brilliant, driven, stubborn as hell, and she works 18-hour days because she thinks she has to save everyone. James nodded. I know. Those are the reasons I love her. And you understand that if you hurt her, you'll have to answer to an old soldier who has nothing left to lose? James smiled. I understand, sir. But I also understand that I'd have to answer to myself, and that's a much scarier prospect. Marcus extended his hand. Welcome to the family, son. The wedding was held at the Foundation's headquarters, with dozens of veterans and their families in attendance. As Marcus walked Sarah down the aisle, he whispered to her, Your mother would be so proud of the woman you've become. She'd be proud of the man you've become too, Sarah whispered back. During his father of the bride speech, Marcus spoke about second chances, about the power of never giving up on family, and about how sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in the most unexpected packages. 2.5 years ago, he said, I was a broken man holding a cardboard sign, invisible to the world. Today, I'm standing here because my daughter refused to let me stay invisible. She taught me that family isn't just about blood, it's about choice. She chose to see me when everyone else looked away. She chose to love me when I couldn't love myself. And today, James is choosing to love her with the same determination she showed me. He raised his glass. To Sarah and James, may your love be as relentless as Sarah's compassion, and may you always remember that the best things in life are worth fighting for. After the ceremony, as the celebration continued into the night, Marcus found himself standing alone on the Foundation's balcony, looking out over the city lights. Sarah joined him, still in her wedding dress. Penny for your thoughts? She asked. I was thinking about that cardboard sign, Marcus said. The one I used to hold on street corners. What about it? It said veteran. Anything helps. God bless. But I think it should have said father looking for his daughter. Please help me find my way home. Sarah leaned against his shoulder. You did find your way home, Dad. We both did. Yes, Marcus said, putting his arm around her. We did. As they stood there together, father and daughter, both of them thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. The years of searching, the pain of separation, the moment of recognition on a busy Seattle street, and all the healing that had followed. Marcus had kept his promise to himself. He had lived long enough to see his daughter happy, successful, and surrounded by love. Sarah had kept her promise to him. She'd given him not just a home, but a purpose, a reason to keep going, and a legacy that would help countless other veterans find their way back to the families they thought they'd lost forever. The Marcus Mitchell Foundation eventually expanded to 12 cities, helping over 3,000 veterans reconnect with their families and rebuild their lives. Marcus lived to see his first grandchild, Sarah and James's daughter, Emma, and spent his final years as the most devoted grandfather anyone could imagine. When Marcus passed away peacefully at age 78, the funeral was attended by hundreds of veterans and their families whose lives he had touched. Sarah spoke at the service, sharing the story of how a successful surgeon and a homeless veteran found each other on a rainy Seattle street, and how that moment of recognition changed not just their lives, but the lives of everyone they were able to help together. "My father taught me that no one is truly lost," Sarah said. "Sometimes we just need someone who refuses to stop looking." Years later, when people asked Sarah about her greatest achievement, she never mentioned her surgical successes, her medical awards, or even the foundation's impact. She always talked about that foggy morning when she followed her instincts, pulled over her car, and chose to see the invisible man with the cardboard sign. "Everything good in my life started with that choice," she would say. "The choice to believe that sometimes the person you're looking for is right in front of you, waiting for someone to truly see them." The foundation continues to operate today, with Sarah as its director and Emma, now grown, carrying on the family tradition of helping veterans find their way home. On the wall of the foundation's main office hangs a framed photograph, a young soldier in dress uniform holding a newborn baby, both of them smiling at the camera. Below it, a small plaque reads, "Family never gives up on family." And sometimes, late at night when Sarah is working alone in the office, she can almost hear her father's voice reminding her of the truth they learned together. The people we love are never really lost. They're just waiting for us to find them. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more emotional, dramatic, and unexpected tales of family, love, and second chances. And let us know in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? We love hearing from all of you. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep watching.